Hi everyone, this is John Geekie Art. I'm John Geekie, and this is a large 40 by 30 inch canvas, and what I'm going to try and do today is paint this scene. It's a famous scene in the English Lake District. It's Blea Tarn looking towards the Langdales, and there are various elements in this picture that we can simplify as a starting point. And here's the picture against the canvas. You can see it's quite quite small. Fastening the picture, the photograph you're using as a reference, fastening it down to the lower corner of the canvas in this manner will give you some clues about laying out your picture. If we want to get an idea of proportions, we can draw a line from the lower corner here through this corner and project that across to the canvas at this side. So we're going to get the top corner of the picture here projected across to the canvas, and that comes to here. So I know that this is the top of the photograph in relation to the larger canvas. I've got a space above that line, which is just very fortunate because I filled that with sky, and I think it would probably look a bit better than the photograph, because the photograph there isn't much going on above the picture here, above the mountains. So that gives you the top of the painting, or rather the top of the photograph. We're going to then get the rest of it, some key points in this part of the canvas from the photograph again. So the obvious main point to look for is this water line. The water line, horizontal water line, comes to this point here. It's about just over a third of the way down from the canvas. I could sort of measure this and calculate it on here and everything, but all you need to do is to save that, is to again get that lower corner, get this point here where the water line meets the edge of the picture, and project a line across. Project that line across, and we get to this point here. This point here is the water line, so I can draw a faint line on there as a guideline. So that's the water line. That was the top of the picture. The water line is there. Now, if I'm looking for another focal point, I think really this tree is quite significant. So what I can do is, I know this tree is more or less just above the water line, but what I'm going to say it's more or less on the water line. So if I project this line again from here through the base of the tree, bring this up, I get a point here which crosses this water line, and I know that that's the point of the tree. So I've marked that on there. This mountain range here, there's a significant slope there. So again, what I can do, I can just look at that slope, and it's quite fortunate because if you project that slope down, it comes to the base of the tree here. So I can look at that angle and very carefully lift this up here to the base of the tree, and I've got that angle which I can project across, and that's going to give me the top of the mountain range here. So from the base of the tree to the top of the mountain range, it's about that angle. To try to get an idea of that angle, you can be a little bit out, it doesn't really matter, but try and get an idea of that angle and just move it up to the base of the tree, make a mark, and then project that mark across, and you'll get the top of the mountain. Looking at this fence in the water, where the top of the fence hits the edge of the picture, I can get that point as well by lining from the bottom corner again through that point where it touches the edge of the picture. I can project that line across and I get a point on the edge of the painting which is going to be the top of the fence. Now if I look at this, the top of that fence, it's pretty well disappearing towards the base of that tree again. So I can see that the tree is a bit of a focal point. So what I can do, I can afford to, just from this point where the top of the fence hit the edge of the pinch, I can project a line to the base of the tree. So that gives me the top of the fence. And I can do the same with where the fence, the bottom of the fence. The bottom of the fence is actually hidden by some shrubbery, but I can guess it's about here. So again, I can go through here, through where I think the base of the fence is, bring it across, and I get another point. So I've got the top and the bottom of the fence. So just do that again. So it's about here, bring that across, and I get a point here. So I know that this is the base of the tree. So sorry, the base of the fence. So the fence is going to be going up like this, and then it's going to be reflected in the water here. So there you are. So that's the basic layout. And now I'm going to try and start adding some paint. Okay, so here we go. I'm just using some very modest acrylic paint. Nothing expensive. And I'm going to put the major elements in. So just to remind you, that was going to be the top of the original photograph. This is the waterline here. So just very roughly put this in. That's the waterline. Above the waterline we have an area. This area here is a bit brackeny, bit orangey, which I'll add later. The mountain, if you remember, from the base of the tree, well, I'll just put the tree in roughly here. So that's the tree. From the base of the tree, we had that line going up at this angle, and that gives me a line here which is roughly the top of the mountain. The mountain drops down quite sharply like this, and then there's a significant feature here, a little bump, and then it comes along, it drops off here, starts to come down, descend, and it drops here like this and down. So that's this little bit here. We know that the hill behind the tree is roughly that angle. If that's the horizon, then the reflection of this area here will be into here, and so if that was the angle there, I can sort of put the reflection about here, because it'll be about the same at this distance. Same for the reflection of the mountain down here, except we do have a highlight as well to think about. So we have some more trees here coming down. This is the bank, which is quite dark at the base here. So that's the bank. All sorts of colours in that later. In the distance I've got a faint mountain range. Now looking at the picture, it comes off about here, like this. It gives a little bit of a, this is the Langdales at the back actually, so I can see the peak of the Langdales relating to the It's about the same height as that, so it's about the same height as that. And we have, let's see, we have a bobble here, we have a bit of a bobble there, and this comes down, and that's about it. So that's that comes down here. There's a little bit of something there, and then disappears. The fence, coming across to this side, the fence position is here. This is the top of the fence. That's the top of the fence there, and the base of the fence is here, and the fence is about there. But I'm not going to put the fence in just yet. That's going to be the last thing actually. I'm going to come back to that one later. But looking at the, in fact I think that's more or less all I'll do there, so that we have a shoreline here which comes up about here. Got a clump of grasses there, comes down here and it comes over here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is work from the top of the picture. So I'm going to put some sky in. So just using some white acrylic with just a touch of red. And come over that tree there. You can see this is pretty transparent acrylic, so I'm going to have to do another coat or two, but this will give you the idea of how it will start to build up. So, a bit more water, bring the water across here. Right, so, just touch more water. Just using a cheap decorator's brush with not many bristles on. Perhaps I might change it to get a... And here it's building up the sky. Across this side. I'm not being too precious about the overlapping the tops of any mountains or anything just yet, because I can always put those back in. But it's just blocking in. We're just simply blocking in. So there you are. That's an initial blocking in. Okay, I'll stop there. That was just a quick time-lapse break. I'll just stop there because I want to just sort of, this is still underpainting, but I want to sort of emphasise the main point here with this reflection. So that was the edge of the water. This is a reflection on the water. That will be the reflective point, the focal point. So basically on this picture, the height of that fell mountain above this focal point here is what's reflected from here to here, not from the edge of the highlighted water, but from this point here. That distance there wants to be about the same as this distance here. Okay, so that distance, that's your reflective point. This is a reflection of that. Okay, so just try to bear that in mind. So here we have the painting basically blocked in. We started off with the photograph down there, and we got our points here for the various elements of the picture. There's the tree which will be put in there. The fell side here is reflected in the water here, and it's reflected about this point. Remember, we said that height there has got to equal the reflection from that point. So the reflections they need a bit more work. I need to do some adjustments here, but we're almost to the stage where we can add fine detail. There's some detailing of the fell side here to put in. Detailing here, there's a little bit of edge detailing here to put in. These tree trunks will go in, and you'll probably see some reflections in the water. There's a few tree trunks here, and of course the fence which is standing in the water. I'll just have to maybe redraw that again, but that needs to be painted in with a reflection. A little bit of foreground interest detail down here. Tidying up the sky a little bit. The water here needs tidying up. It's a bit rough at the moment, needs another coat. And but that's basically the hard work done, and it's a case of refinement now and enjoying putting the detail in. So I hope you're enjoying this, so I'll carry on later. Okay, so sorry about the light, not quite sure what's happened here, but I decided I needed to just tidy up the fell tops. You can see here I'm just blocking them in a little bit more accurately, and I'm starting to do a bit of work on the fell side. So here we are, just adding a little bit of colour to the fell, trying to indicate some rocks and a bit of high grass in the fell, some colour, and generally just looking at it and getting a feel for adding things in, looking at the photograph, and there's the photograph there. And just here what I had to do was alter the reflection. I just obviously put too much reflection in at first, so I just had to block out with a bit of white. Okay, so we've got to this stage so far. I'm now thinking about where the fence goes, so it's a little bit of a challenge. So what I've done here, I don't know if you can see this, I've put a pin into the bottom corner of the canvas there with a photograph in that bottom corner, and I'm going to line up the top of the fence, which is there, and that brings me to this point here. So what I can do on the edge of the canvas is I can mark, say, T for top. So I've marked T for top there. So that's the top of the fence where it meets the edge of the picture. The base of the fence is about there. So I can bring that in, and I can mark B at this side for the base of the fence. So what I can do next is I can move this pin, and I can put the pin at this side where I've got the top of the fence. So I'll just put it in lightly because I don't want to mark the canvas too much. So that's where the top of the fence would be. I'm now going to move it across towards our vanishing point, which, if you remember, was the base of the tree here, which is going to be about there. So, in fact, I'll put a little mark on. So that's the base of the tree. So this is the line of the top of the fence. So I can just try and lightly draw a pencil line across there. Now I need the lower part of the fence. So I'll take the pin out and I'll move it down to the lower part of the fence. So the pin's there. I've got a loop on this cord, so I can just loop it round, line it up again with the base of the vanishing point here, or the base of the fence, and I can mark on there the position of the bottom of the fence. And that's going to be quite a useful guide. I need to now figure out where to put the verticals. There are 4 verticals, but I can use perhaps this top ridge line. as a guide for that. That's not too specific. So that's a, you know, an interesting little thing to do. Right, so I've got these two lines marked on. I've just drawn them lightly in pencil. So that was the base of the fence. Here's the fence here. I've moved it across the picture from that side to this side because of course I can use this corner to get the points of the fence where they are. I'll just show you how that works. So that's the bottom line of the fence. That's the top line of the fence. And what I can do is I need to figure out where the posts are, where these posts are here. And it's quite easy to do for the technically minded. If you get a straight edge and you go to the bottom corner of the photograph and the canvas here, line it up with the first post, which is there. Just take my word for it. I can project that up and I can make a mark on the top line. I can then line up the second post, which is here, and make another mark on that top line. Same with the third, and same with the fourth. There's quite big gaps between the first two posts, but the last is harder. And I can see on here that one post is going to be there, one post is going to be there, one there, and the last one there. So the reflections will be down below here. So I've got a good mark. If I wanted to double check, I could look at this post here, the end post, and I could ring that line up and I could see that it's towards the bottom end of this slope, this long slope. So let's just check whether that sort of figures out. So I'll just go up here, bring that up, yeah, and it's about exactly the same spot. So it's a useful little trick to use a photograph, get the proportions like we started out with exactly right, and then you can use a photograph to get focal, dividing points, significant points. Okay, so we marked out the vertical positions of the fence and the bottom of the fence and the top of the fence, and so now I'm just going to lightly indicate those with some colour. So one fence post is about there. The next one is there. The third one is here. And the last one is... oh, that was the last one. This is the other one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's the position. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got the cross pieces coming across. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 1, and the bottom one is down here. I'll tidy this up a little later. This is just getting the idea of where the fence posts are in. One, two, three. Right, so that's the approximate position of the fence. So we have the position of the fence in here. It's only been drawn at the moment, or painted rather, quite roughly. It's an indication where the fence is. I can see that the fence is quite a lot lighter, so it will stand out against the dark background. I'll do all that later. And there's one or two details like red lines going down some of the posts, and of course then there's a reflection, and there's some stones to put in. There's also some stones to put in here. There's a big stone there, a stone here, some suggestion of reeds growing out of the shallow water there, and so we'll look at those points as we move on. Right, well, it's just about finished enough, I think, for the point of view of making this video. But what I will do post showing this video is I will add some more details, perhaps. But for now, I think the way to finish this off would be to put the trees here on the island, or this little bit of a nab which sticks out into the lake. Put the details of these trees on. So just putting a bit of shading there. Right, okay, so I've mixed some blue and some red, and let's have a go. So the tree is about here. So just put the tree in. So there's the tree, the main tree trunk. There's little bits of some more detail I can put on here. And I'm still using the red and blue mixture, nice and dark. It's on top of a green, which seems to work as a silhouette. Now, some more tree trunks. We have one coming down from here all the way down into the bank, and then we have some very upright tree trunks here close together. So just like this, and then we have one here. This looks quite dramatic against the pale background, and that's the idea really. So nice dark tree trunk there, and we'll have another one quite close to it, so we'll assume it's going up there, comes down here. Mix a little bit more red and blue. We have We have one here, quite a delicate one. And what's happening with that one is we have, or the one across here, we have some branches going out. I'm using a rigger for this little bit of detail. Put another tree in. There are a couple of trees coming from down here. And of course we get a bit of a reflection in the water. Right, okay, so that's looking more or less as I want it. Like I say, I'll put some more detail on, possibly later. I'm just looking at it now, and I think what I might try and do is indicate some rocks at the foot of the fence. Right, so just down here we did have some rocks, so let me just have a look. I had a little rock here, quite a big one here. Right, so colour's not quite right for those rocks, so I'll just work on that a little bit. We have, of course, rocks and shadows are quite important, so we're going to put some shadow in. We have a big reflection on that rock here. We have a bit of a Okay, I think I'll leave it there. I'll just do a bit more work on those rocks a little later. But that's more or less, I think, as far as I want to go. Right, hope you enjoyed it. Hi everyone, hope you liked the video. This is the final painting. I think I might go back to it and add one or two details, but it's quite a big area. So if you're going to attempt anything like this, you'll need a big brush. This is just using, this has been made just using very cheap acrylic paints from a local craft shop, and you still can get very pleasing effects using cheap materials. If you like this, please go to my blog, John Geekie Art, or Google John Geekie Art, and you'll see one or two more videos of me with my plein air work. Oh, and also how to paint an apple.